Good morning to those who are viewing on the various media houses. My name is Fiona Charles Williams, the PR of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union. And today, the 24th of February 2025, I am here to facilitate a joint press conference with regards to the ruling of the East Caribbean Court of Appeal, the union's response and the way forward. I would like to introduce the members, the esteemed members of the head table. To my immediate right, we have Brother Elroy Boucher, the President of the Public Service Union. To his immediate right, we have Brother Oswald Robinson, the President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union. And to his immediate right, we have Sister Shellyanne Alexander Ross, General Secretary of the Public Service Union of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Like I said, we are here to give a response with regards to the ruling of the East Caribbean High Court of Appeal and basically the way forward for our unions in collaboration with the Police Welfare Association. So to begin, I will allow my esteemed colleague here, Brother Elroy Boucher, to start the proceedings, and then we will continue from there.
Thank you, Fiona, and good morning to the media, and good morning to all the persons, Vincentians, home and abroad, who will be tuning in to listen to this important press conference being held by the unions along with the Police Welfare Association. About 2 weeks ago, the ruling was handed down by the appeals court in the matter of the vaccine, what we call a vaccine mandate. Persons, of course, would remember the ruling of Justice Henry that gave victory to dismissed workers and the unions. When that ruling was handed down, it literally left a lot of persons reeling. It was unexpected, and it came as a shock to many, not just the persons who are affected. All right-thinking Vincentians would have felt the effect of that ruling that was handed down by the appeals court. The ruling by the appeals court has implications for the hundreds of dismissed workers, but it also has implications for the Vincentian people, for all Vincentians, and for our Caribbean brothers and sisters. So what are the implications for the persons who have been dismissed? The majority ruling means that the many dismissed workers will continue to suffer, feeling the pain and the hardship that was brought upon them about 3 years ago. They, along with their families, will continue to share the same hardships. There are many who are on the verge of losing their homes, as far as I've been advised, and some of the lending institutions were actually waiting to see the result of this appeal. What will happen now? I don't know. What is going to happen to those who held on with everything just for this moment, only to receive such devastating news? The government vaccine mandate is best described, and I couldn't have put it better than the way the dissenting judge, Justice Walbank, stated it. He said, "To be clear, speaking for myself, I regard it as self-evident and indisputable, requiring no further establishment that the impugned termination measure in the present case was draconian or severe or drastic or intrusive or whatever other similar description might be applied. That is because it deprived employees of their employments, of their livelihoods for themselves and their dependents, of their financial benefits, socially marginalized them, and traumatized them. That is the effect as described by Justice Walbank on the hundreds of persons who dared to stand for liberty of conscience and bodily autonomy. They dared to stand, holding on to their fundamental rights and freedoms. Over the 3 years of hardships, culminating with this ruling, I have no doubt that many of the dismissed workers would have had their faith and their resolve tested. But my encouragement to them is to hold on and to let them know that they are not alone in this fight. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand." Encouragement is needed at this time for all of those workers. Up to this morning, I received a call from one of them, and it broke my heart, knowing how they were hoping that this decision by the appeal court will be the right one for them and their families. Some of the questions I asked, I could not even answer. And all I could have done is encourage them to hold on. The matter is not over. As I said, this ruling has some serious implications also for the Vincentian people. And to me, this is scary and frightening. Section 43B2 of the Public Health Act, which speaks of voluntary immunization in the case of public health emergencies, was amended, and the word voluntary was deleted. The effect of this particular amendment paved the way for the government draconian vaccine mandates. This amendment had an effect in which the fundamental human rights of Vincentians, the right to bodily integrity, was taken away. The amendment, in my view, is an existential threat to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It effectively means that whenever a public health emergency is declared, not necessarily a pandemic, the law speaks to a public health emergency. Whenever a public health emergency is declared, the government can force Vincentian men, women, boy, girl, and children to take a drug or any such medication in their bodies, regardless of its experimental nature, as was the case in the COVID vaccine. The right to decide what goes into our bodies is a sacred right that shall not be interfered with. Bodily autonomy is the foundation of gender equality according to the United Nations. And above all, it's a fundamental right. Bodily autonomy means my body is for me. My body is my own. It's about power. It's about agency. It's about choice. It's about simple dignity. All of that was taken away when this amendment was passed just after midnight in the wee hours of the morning by the ULP-led administration of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No government should ever be allowed to take away the fundamental rights and freedom of its people. The right to conscience, the right to property, persons lost their pensions, the right to religious freedom, because even though they have said there were religious exemptions, there are persons whose religion did not permit them to be vaccinated, and they were not even exempted. An example is the Tuesdays. Not even exempted. So they could not even claim that particular fundamental right. These rights, in addition to being protected in our Constitution, are also protected by international law. International human rights and international covenant of civil and political rights. They are rights that must be protected, or is expected to be protected by any government. Not for the government to be the ones taking away or setting aside those rights. Government has a role, and that role is to protect our constitutional rights. The Prime Minister has repeatedly said that he will take the matter to the highest court because he needs to know what the government can do to mitigate future public health emergencies. His comments indicate to me that the action taken by his ULP-led administration can be repeated. The next time, it may not just be a section of the public service. The next time, it may be the entire public service. School children, the entire Vincentian population who have to access public services. We may very well find in order to access public services, you have to be vaccinated with whatever is there, whether it is tested or whether it is experimental. That reminds me of the prophecy in the Bible about the mark of the beast, where you can't buy and sell unless you have that 666 mark. That is the danger that we face as a people in the country. And I'm telling you, this concern is not just shared by me, because I listened to a program last night, Legalize, with renowned lawyers, constitutional lawyers also. They share similar sentiments. What is to stop any government from repeating this at any time, because it is now law of the land. Our people must never lose sight of what was done. The government took a collective decision. When I say collective, the cabinet of St. Vincent and the Grenadines took a collective decision to deprive Vincentians of their fundamental rights. What are the implications for our brothers and our sisters in the Caribbean? This concern with respect to the wider region was also shared on that program last night. Because other governments are looking at what is happening here. The constitutions of most of the countries within the OECS are quite similar. What is to stop a government in any of the islands from taking this particular pathway? If they now, according to what the appeal court have said, it is legal for any government to so do. There is nothing, because they can argue that the law is on their side. This is how troubling this matter is. What can we do? How can we mitigate what has happened? There are two solutions to fix the dilemma that we find ourselves in. One requires a political solution, one is a political solution, and one is a legal solution. The political solution: the government must repeal Act number 15 of 2021, which is the amendment that was done to the Public Health Act that took away this voluntary immunization. That must be repealed. The Vincentian people must call on the government to repeal that amendment. We must also call on the opposition to give its commitment that if they happen, because this is an election year, if they happen to win the election, to get into government, on their to-do list, the first thing they must do is repeal this amendment. This matter must also be taken to the highest court. And that's what we have decided to do. It must go to the highest court to have a pronouncement. It cannot be left the way it is. The importance of taking this to the Privy Council is not just an importance for the dismissed workers, it's important for the country. It's important for this current government or future governments. It's important for the Caribbean governments. You never know what type of government you will have, who will decide to take such draconian measures. And quite interestingly, we are the only government, our government is the only government that went down this path. Only government. And quite interestingly again, the other governments that allowed voluntary vaccination had a higher percentage of persons vaccinated than our government that forced Vincentians to be vaccinated. When you look at the list of public sector workers that were identified for this mandate, You see public servants in the House of Assembly. This was pointed out even recently. But what you do not see is the other persons who also in the House of Assembly, which is cabinet members. Their names don't appear in it. Cabinet members don't appear in it. Just public servants. And in my reading of this, I'm of the view that they consider themselves the masters and we are the servants, when it's supposed to be the other way around. We elect people to be our servants, to serve the people of the country, not to be masters over us. Vaccination for the public servants in the very halls in which you are traveling. The people all around you must be vaccinated, but not you. Your names cannot be on that list. Because you see yourself, in my view, as masters of the people. And Vincentian must not allow this to ever happen again. And that's when I see the political solution. The Vincentian people have the power, one way or the other, to prevent this from happening again. For any government to make this decision, the people have the power to prevent that from happening. So there has to be a political solution. There has to be a legal solution. The government have made the offer for workers to come back to work. I've had some time to pass at the Service Commission to understand what is required and the procedures, because our encouragement is for them to do so once it is possible. I've been told by the CPO that all the workers have to do is to indicate their interests. And then some form that they have to fill out, giving some information. And once a vacancy is available, they will fill the vacancy. If no vacancy is available, the Prime Minister has indicated that Cabinet will create the positions. I don't know what the timeline on that is. The workers are being told that they will return with all their benefits intact. But it is not entirely true. Your pension will be intact, minus the years, the 3 years, if it's 3 years, that any of those workers have been out of work. Those 3 years will not count. Because in the Prime Minister's words, according to the current law, they have abandoned their jobs. And that is the law of the land. And that is the fact. According to the current law of the land, they have abandoned their jobs. And therefore, they would have lost all pensions for those particular time, those period in which they were out of work. The other thing that they have lost in returning is vacation. The vacation that they have accumulated over the years is lost. And the decision by the government is that you're starting vacation from scratch. We have indicated to the CPO that that is unfair. If you are talking about person's benefits being intact, the vacation is a part of that benefit. So all of those issues are there, and that is why, that is another reason in terms of the dismissed workers, why this matter has to go all the way to the Privy Council. So it is not just only the Vincentian interest or the regional interest to settle all of these outstanding issues with respect to the workers who stood for dignity and bodily integrity. This matter needs to be ventilated at the highest court. And I will stay there at this particular time and hand over to.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Boucher. Brother Boucher spoke about the dangers of finding a justification for unjust laws, as well as the various mitigating circumstances that public servants had to go through. At this time, I will hand over to the president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Brother Oswald Robinson, and he will speak to the ruling with regards to the perspective of the teachers of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Brother Robinson.
Thank you very much, Sister Fiona, my esteemed colleague, Brother Elroy Boucher, President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Public Service Union, Sister Shelley Alexander Ross, General Secretary of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Public Service Union, those who are listening and viewing this very important press conference, members of the media, I want first of all to put what we are doing here in context, and especially those new members of unions. Because sometimes when you are doing certain things, it's important that you continue that educational exercise. Now, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, based on 3 of our objectives, as a union, 2.13, it says that we are to establish and maintain relations with other workers' organizations, local, regional, and international. So the Public Service Union and the Teachers Union, we continue to reaffirm our position. We are committed to the task of maintaining our relationship here, and that's why we are together here speaking to a matter of national importance. Article 2.14 of our Constitution also says that we must monitor all new and amended legislation to ensure that these are consistent with the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we believe what was done by the government in law is something that we need to revisit, and Brother Boucher would have articulated quite well in terms of the way forward in us as trade unions monitoring these new set of legislation. And the final point about our commitment also, as a union, we have a responsibility to defend all fundamental rights and freedom that have universal acceptance and work towards removal of injustices and inequalities of our society. By now, you would understand and must realize that what was done by the vaccine mandate would have created inequalities. Our teachers, especially those who have been dismissed, would have gone down the lower strata of society in terms of socio-economic welfare. And we have seen the removal of justices. And Brother Boucher spoke about the importance of religious liberty. When we had our first press conference many years ago, when we launched that at the Methodist Church Hall, I specifically made an appeal to the churches, the religious people. And I said emphatically that what the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have done, a Labour government, is to infringe on your religious liberty, your bodily integrity. It's the same Bible that says that your body is the temple of God. And you, as an individual in your right mind, must have that responsibility to decide what you take into your body. And I find it very strange when I listened to the Prime Minister last week on a radio program. He was making a mockery of a particular, he called them a little group. Whether it's 2 or 3, the Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, they are there in the midst to bless. So whether it's 4 or 5 and you want to describe it as a little group, it's not the size of the little group. Once it is recognized as a church and the people come together, and you cannot be making a mockery of people's religious convictions, they believe. And he was making the point that that religious group said that their pastor is God, their leader is God. Well, God is the head, he's the head. He's the head of the church. And when you see leaders of the land like Nebuchadnezzar and Pharaoh and Herod, we're having another Herod and another Pharaoh within these contemporary times, seeking to infringe on the rights of our people. And so I am hoping by now the rest of the churches, the religious community by now would have smelled this coffee. It's time you wake up and smell the coffee. Because here is a government that is tampering the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. When we went to the referendum, they tampered with it. And soon after that, even though you see them employing yes and set workers, is the cabinet doing that? It's not the Public Service Commission. But these people come to work in the public sector. So that is how they have been eating away at the Constitution in a very subtle, smart way. But those of us who are critical thinkers would see this, and we speak to the nation. And when you speak to the nation about these things, people say they are politics. Yes, because these are things that affect democracy. I'm saying this because the Public Service Commission is responsible for employment in the public sector. And when the cabinet has to decide that, it is clearly showing that this government wants to manipulate and control everything. And that is why Justice Esco Henry would have ruled about ultra vires, where the government would have overstepped its boundaries and attempt to perform duties and responsibilities which are designed for the Public Service Commission. And that institution has its autonomy in an enshrined clause of the Constitution. So you're not supposed to interfere with the work of the Public Service Commission. I want to make the point, just like my brother, that we need to amend the SRNO number 21, 2021 and number 15. Because when you insert certain changes to original laws and you fail to take into consideration people's right under the Constitution, we're heading in the wrong direction. This is not democracy. This is a dictatorship. And so those other members of the cabinet, you need to rise up. You can't have one man dictating for you when a constituency voted you and you're supposed to be there to represent the populace. It makes no sense. You cannot be figureheads. Demonstrate that you are a critical thinker and you believe in the dignity of mankind. I know my brother would have mentioned the implications and spell out vacation leave, loss of pension, financial benefits, and there are people whose properties are under threat right now. The members of the Teachers Union, we also have experiences of persons applying for vacation leave and they are told you only have 8 days. Those who went back to work, they're given new dates, new appointments. 2023, you're telling them they have been appointed when they would have been appointed many, many years ago. We need to let the government know and the general public that this matter will proceed to the Privy Council. Our membership would have already made that decision. We have that mandate, and we are going to carry it out with dignity, with pride, as true patriots of our Vincentian and Caribbean civilization. This is another demonstration, another manifestation that we are committed to justice and equal rights, and we will stand tall to defend all fundamental rights and freedom. We're not going to allow the government to re-enslave us. We are not going to allow any dictators to determine our destiny. So we will proceed with the Privy Council. Our legal counsel would have already begun the process. The first draft has already been completed, and the application for leave of the Court of Appeal. And we are committed to meet the 21 days deadline. So this matter the process has already started. And this is good news for the populace. This is good news for the Caribbean, the rest of the world. Because as my brother said, this has a long-term effect. The precedent has been set, and we need to go to get to the final Court of Appeal to have this matter reviewed in the interest of all. I do empathize with the workers out there, especially those of our teachers who have their children at universities and they can't find the funds to help them. There are many teachers who have children in primary school, secondary school, and colleges, and they're feeling the pain. And here is a government, because of its draconian stance, they have their feet on the neck of our workers. And so we would move forward in unison. We're going to move forward united, even more united. And it is important that the public stand in solidarity with us. And I just want to re-emphasize a point that my brother made. If we allow this thing to stay as it is, they're going to dictate, they're going to mandate John Public, your children, you, to decide what should go into your body. We can't sit down and play dead. We have to rise up, stand firm, and let us move forward together and advocate for freedom of conscience, freedom of religious liberty. And let us all reap the benefits of this very important exercise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Robinson. You spoke specifically to the teachers and the experiences of the teachers, and reiterated the point that both unions, along with the Police Welfare Association, have decided that the next step is the Privy Council. That process has already started.
Before you proceed, we need to make an apology for our legal counsel, who should have been here today. They have court matters they are dealing with and cannot join us at this time. Okay?
Right. So I will just revert back to Brother Boucher, who I am sure he has some things that he wants to add based on the fact that Robbie spoke. So, Brother Boucher, I pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. I had forgotten what to mention, the healthcare workers. When the government did an amendment to the SRNO 28, number 22, that amendment was amendment number 22. When they did that amendment, all of the categories of workers were removed from the vaccine mandate list, save and except for healthcare workers. So even at the time when the Prime Minister was saying workers can come back, no healthcare worker could have gone back without being vaccinated still. As far as I'm aware, and in recent conversation with the Prime Minister, I brought this to his attention, that the mandate is still in place for healthcare workers. He insists it is not, but I have not seen any amendment to the effect that says healthcare workers is no longer under a vaccine mandate. Basically, notwithstanding this, they are moving forward because we have had a few doctors who have gone to seek some clarity on their re-employment. They are moving forward with the whole issue of coming back to your job. But in some areas within healthcare, there has been and continue to be a demand for vaccination. So the government needs to repeal in its entirety the SRNO 28. If you're saying it is done with now and persons can come back, there has been no amendment as far as I'm aware that have nullified that particular category of workers being under a vaccine mandate. So I just wanted to mention that and mention to the nurses that given what is being said, the only way to test the waters is to go back and indicate their interest and let us see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Boucher. We have up next is Sister Shelley Ann Alexander Ross, General Secretary of the Public Service Union. She will just basically speak briefly to the union's commitment for public engagement. Sister Ross.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as was mentioned before, you know that we are collaborating with each other, and it is our commitment as the Public Service Union, Teachers Union, and Police Welfare to engage in a public campaign. So what we have done when we met 2 weeks ago, we would have formulated a committee. Let me say to Vincentians generally, not so much public servants, most of those who were affected, that you would have heard that the Public Health Act, the amendment more or less to the Public Health Act, it wasn't done in isolation, and we are not the only person that were affected and will be affected in the future. So it's important that the general public become aware and don't sleep too long, because sooner or later we might be experiencing another pandemic or healthcare emergency, and you will be required, based on the amendment of the Public Health Act, to take something whether or not you want to take it. And that is what I want to get the message out there clear, that when we would have formulated our ideas and we have everything in terms of the logistics worked out, and we are calling you to partner with us and to stand in solidarity with us. Our aim is to get the public buy-in, because really and truly we are the change that we seek. it's not the time for you to look at somebody to be always fighting on your behalf. We're asking the public, this is a chance for you to fight for yourself in standing in solidarity with the unions who continue to fight for the working class. So the committee is in place. We have members from all the different organizations. You will be hearing from us. We will be having public consultations. We'll be meeting with our members. It's basically to engage our members, to sensitize and to discuss our way forward with this vaccine mandate, because we're in this thing together, and you have heard our intention in terms of our legal intentions. You also heard the other option, which is a political one, and it is for us as a public, as the public, to decide which side of the fence you will be standing on going forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sister Alexander Ross. So we have basically said a mouthful thus far. I now invite the members of the media who are here with us to ask questions of the head table. Bearing in mind that we have opted and our membership has decided that we will go to the Privy Council, and that procedure has already begun.
Good morning, dear students and Mr. The Prime Minister's presentation last week mentioned the issue of cost. I was wondering, obviously, I'm going to someone already been spent, and this much is spent. Does anyone care to let us like what area, how much has been spent so far, and what the costs expected for the future? So that matter is going to be pretty costly.
Our first line of business is to have the matters filed within the time frame, as Brother Robbie would have indicated that. Our lawyers are working out all of the other issues, the logistics, the costing and everything like that. But the first line of business is meeting that deadline. So at this particular point, that's the focus. Whenever we get to the next step, we are already mindful that we have to mitigate that. There are persons, like I said, this matter is not just local, right? It is not just local. So we'll have to explore all of the possibilities in getting support, local and otherwise, in achieving the stated goal.
Yes, previous cost.
Huh?
Previous cost.
The previous cost? Well, the government never told us how much of our taxpayers' money they spend. The Prime Minister needs to tell the nation. Next time the Parliament meets, they need to tell the nation how much of our taxpayers' money was paid. They paid. Because that is economic leakage. That's why we're getting poorer every day. Yes? When you send our money outside to pay lawyers, it's economic leakage. Our taxpayers' money. So he needs to tell us and how much he intends again and where he's going to get it from. The carboning of teachers? The ruling was on the 12th, right?
So 21 days is 21 business days, or?
Yes, it have to be business days, calendar days. So if we do the maths, 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks gone already. So we have a few more days. Yeah? Well, the carboning of teachers sat right at this table and reaffirm its commitment. In fact, the President, Dr. Gart Anderson, a couple weeks ago, he was here. I think was the 9th of January. We had a workshop right here, and he spoke and he said to the government, why is it you want to keep this thing going. I'm paraphrasing. He said there's no government in the Caribbean which should have done this thing. And then when we had one of our TV programs, I think was the 11th, he spoke, it was on the SVG TV News, and he spoke about the commitment of the Caribbean Union of Teachers. Last year at our biennial convention, when he was sworn in, no, that was the year before, yeah, he also spoke about condemning what the government would have done. So the Caribbean Union of Teachers is with us in our chat groups. You would get solidarity messages, encouragement from the member units within the Caribbean Union of Teachers. So the Caribbean Union of Teachers is in full support, is in solidarity with us because we are a member of that organization.
Good morning. Kenton Chances, Director Sales at the Caribbean Media Corporation. Mr. Boucher, it was, he called on the public to, in essence, for the repealing of the mandate. I was wondering if you have made any such calls on the opposition to maybe get like a commitment from them that if they were to be elected to office that they would repeal the law. Because, I mean, even if well, as it stands now, that is the law of the country. And unless it is overturned by a higher court, and even if for instance, if you go to the court of appeal and you lose, then that becomes the law of the land, unless the government repeals the law. So, have you sought a commitment from the opposition that if they elected to office, that they would actually repeal the law?
Well, we have spoken with the opposition on this matter, and they of course will speak about this in their own timing. But we have spoken to them and communicated exactly what we would like to see, which is the repeal of this amendment. We know that they have to do some thinking about it, but the impression that we have gotten from the meeting is that this would be something that they can agree to. But like I said, we give them the space to bring that to the public in their own timing.
You said thinking about it, the opposition has repeatedly said that they don't agree with the mandate.
Yes.
So if that is the case, if in principle they don't agree with the mandate, what is there to think about? Is there to think about it?
Well, the conversation just didn't have to do with the mandate alone, right? There are some other issues because we raised the issue of the workers and their compensation, the issue that we are now facing. If you're gonna, because the opposition has also stated that under an NDP government, all workers will be rehired. So we also needed to know what that really means. So the issue of like we say, whether things like vacation leave will be lost, and compensation, especially for persons who have struggled over the years, because currently by law, according to the law, I mean, there's no entitlement based on the law itself, but as a party, in repealing the amendment, what can they do? So Kenton, in principle, they have agreed to what we are asking. They have agreed to what we are asking. The depth of the pronouncement will have to come from them. They have asked that we allow them to speak to that particular issue, and we see no problem with that.
Okay, you said, both of you, Mr. Boucher and Mr. Robinson, you said that the Police Welfare Association supports going to the Privy Council. Are they on board? I don't see any of their website today to say that. themselves. They didn't give an excuse or explain their absence.
Well, as you know, the police is a military organization, and they are restricted by laws in terms of their visibility, their presence in certain activities. So, but we work together, and we know that they are committed to taking this matter to the Privy Council.
But you said they restricted in terms of their visibility, but when there was a press conference at the Methodist Church Hall or town hall meeting or something like that, the president of the chairman of the Police Welfare Association was there. So what would prevent him or one of his representatives to get a meeting like this?
I think he has indicated that he has another engagement. So, that is the reason I was given for his absence. He's indicated the last time we met, he had indicated that he had another engagement. So I'm not sure whether that would have been completed in time.
But in terms of supporting what Brother Boucher would have said concerning the meeting that was held with the opposition, they clearly stated that they are against the policy of the government with what they did with the vaccine mandate. And in fact, they reminded us that we must also think about the sufferings of those who are vaccinated. Yeah? And I did say to them, yes, the St. Vincent Grenadines Teachers Union, one of our letters that we wrote to the government and was forwarded to the Governor General is that the government needs to stand liability for those who took the vaccine, experiencing adverse reaction and God forbid death. And the Governor General never responded to our letter, right? Because there are teachers who would have died if the families authorize us to use the death certificates to push forward for another legal battle. We would be willing to do that. We have engaged those vaccinated teachers and asked them to come forward on our platform and speak about how they are suffering. And until we get that visibility of our workers, then we would be empowered to move forward, to continue to represent. But as a union, that is one of the biggest challenges we had, because you have teachers who are vaccinated and teachers who are unvaccinated. And to keep both groups together, that has been one of our biggest challenges. But we have navigated that and we have gone through that, and the union continues to remain united despite difference of opinions.
About the numbers, I don't think we've gotten from the unions ever the exact number of either your members or people in the professions that you represent who were affected by this mandate. How many of them are still on the job? The Prime Minister said 2 Sundays ago that 82 teachers.
I think it's 81.
Somewhere in
Yeah.
lower 80s.
Yeah.
Are yet to return. Do you have any figures on the number of people who are actually affected, who have not returned to their work?
I think he's correct, because we had 212 based on our records who were dismissed by the government because they never abandoned the job, right? There were persons who were working, marking papers, right up to the point where they receive a letter to say they have abandoned the job, which I find is somewhat crazy. Because you're there interface with the children, some online, physically. Soon as CPA exam is finished, soon as CCLC is finished, you get a letter to say you have abandoned your job. When the government itself debarred teachers from going to work, they pass a law to say if you go there, you're going there unlawful. It's unlawful. It's illegal for you to enter your workplace, right? So we know our records show 212 teachers were dismissed, right? it is a challenge for us to get exact information to say how many would have reapplied, because some people not providing that information. I don't know if they're still in a framework of fear. You know, some people going back by word of mouth, so you're not seeing any appointment letters. They go and they ask Tom, Dick, or Harry, and somebody, as you say, pull a string, and you go back on the job. So some persons do not have an appointment letter. But those who receive appointment letters, most of the appointment letters saying you are now appointed the 23rd, sorry, not the 23rd, in 2023. And many of them would have been working long before that.
And Mr. Vulture, do you have any numbers on the people who you represent?
I think most of the other persons, even except for the health sector, I can't recall the numbers in the health sector, but none of them have really gotten back their job because of what was in place or still in place as far as I'm aware, which is the mandate. It is only last week, 2 of the doctors would have made an attempt to go to service commissions. So now you'll see, and the nurses, yesterday when I spoke to one of the nurses who is still out, she was asking that same question. So just let her know all of the nurses can now, based on what the government is saying, can indicate their intentions. And if they're really serious, that is the government, then they would all be employed. But I, at this time, cannot recall the exact numbers because some of them migrated also. We've not been able to track the figures.
No, I just wanted to add, based on our recent meeting with the CPU, that's what the questions that was raised. She didn't have the breakdown in terms of the departments and the nurses and teachers, but she did say, according to her records, according to the records of the personnel department, there are about 130 persons who are yet to return, or who would have indicated, who was still to indicate of their interest, but she didn't have the breakdown, but that is the number that she would have submitted to cabinet in terms of persons.
Any other question?
Okay.
So if when we allow the media, I don't know if the presidents would like to just add something, summarize, perhaps few last words to the listening public, so that we can, go forward.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want us to again remind our teachers out there, workers, that we are committed to this exercise. And I want to reiterate the point that we have gone too far to turn back now. Giving up is not in our vocabulary. There is no retreat, right? We must remain focused. We know that we are going to experience a heightened political environment, because this is a year, but I want people to be respectful, keep this on the front burner. Justice for all. Justice for all. Not only for the workers, it's Vincent Chance, right? And we look forward to continue to work with our allies in ensuring that we give the representation that is so critical at this juncture. Thank you.
For those persons who, just to give a little hope, a bit more hope to people. In the program last night, where one of the panelists was Dr. Francis Alexis, a renowned constitutional lawyer. In fact, he was the person who was behind the
Crafted the constitution.
crafted the constitution for St. Vincent that was put to the people of many years ago, right? And he, in his breakdown of the appeals court ruling, he concluded that in his humble submission, there were a lot of errors made by the appeal judges, those who arrive at their majority decision. And so when you listen to Dr. Alexis and you listen to the other Queen's Counsel and the other lawyers on the panel, you realize, listen what they have pointed out, because they are convinced that Justice Walbank, to express his dissent in judgment that strongly, you realize that there is hope there, and it may very well be, and I really would have arrived at that conclusion myself, may very well be that the majority appeal justices would have gotten it wrong. And therefore, his advice is take it all the way to the Privy Council, because you need a final pronouncement, especially the implication this has for the Caribbean.
Okay. So let me thank those persons here at the head table, press conference. I want to thank the media for being here with us, and thank those who are listening in and viewing in the general public and beyond the diaspora. We would continue to educate our members and the public with regards to the vaccine mandate and the ruling, as well as give updates with regards to the matter in the Privy Council as time goes by. We want to urge our members to continue to hold the faith, keep the faith, and know that the unions are here to represent you. With that being said, let me thank you once again for coming and wish you a blessed day.